Welcome to Mysteries and Crime. I'm your host, Melissa Thompson. Today I want to discuss updates on what's going on with Aiden Fucci. And because documents have been released by authorities, we have a better clue of what went on May 9th, 2021 with Aiden Fucci and his parents, Jason Fucci and Crystal Smith. And I'd like to refresh your memory on this case. On May 9, 2021, Tristyn Bailey, 13, was murdered in the early morning hours of that Mother's Day. Aiden Fucci, 14, is accused of that murder. He is being held right now. Upon being questioned by law enforcement, he gave different accounts of what happened that Sunday morning. He even went as far as victim blaming, which honestly makes me sick to my stomach. The DA came out and said that Tristyn was stabbed 114 times and that she fought for her life. Many of those wounds were defensive wounds to her hands, arms, and face. She did not want to die. She tried to fight him off. But Fucci insisted vehemently that he did not kill Tristyn Bailey. According to documents, authorities met with Aiden Fucci, his father Jason Fucci, and his mother Crystal Smith, who was later charged with destroying evidence in this case. Okay, so let's start with story number 1 that Fucci told police. Aiden said he was with Tristyn at a neighbor's house owned by Dafis, and I guess his nickname is Trey Absher III. At 1 a.m., Fucci stated that him and Bailey, quote, left together. Fucci said he walked north to North Durban Parkway. He said Bailey, quote, turned onto Klosterbone Drive to go home, while he continued to walk down North Durban Parkway, and he arrived home between 3 to 3:30 a.m. approximately. Authorities asked Fucci to, quote, clarify his timeline since it seemed odd, end quote, because the walk normally would have taken about a half hour, but it took Aiden at least 2 hours. So what was he doing in those 2 hours? Now Fucci gives story number 2 next. Fucci said what really happened was that he and Bailey, quote, continued walking north along North Durban Parkway and got into an altercation after Tristyn grabbed his penis, end quote. Aiden stated he forcefully pushed Tristyn into the ground, which caused her to strike her head, end quote, according to police documents. That incident is said to have occurred in the 600 block of North Durban Parkway, just north of Leith Hall Drive. Documents continued to say, quote, Aiden said he was not sure if he saw Tristyn get up due to him being dizzy from smoking marijuana earlier at the home they were visiting. Aiden then said he, quote, walked around for a while, end quote. Police then read Fucci his rights. He stopped answering questions and asked for an attorney. Documents then said Fucci told a third story to Detective Kimberly Peluso. Fucci said that Bailey, quote, could be with a drug dealer who is in his 20s that she communicates with through Snapchat, end quote. He also suggested, quote, she could be on a path by the North Amenities Center known for teenage drug use, end quote. Absher, who had previously spoke to police that he believed Fucci dropped Bailey off at her home, was caught being outside by her sister and then went to meet with a drug dealer. Absher also stated he thought Bailey might be with a drug dealer who was in his 20s. 2 friends of Tristyn's, who are minors, and I will not be naming in this video, were not home when police came by to ask them for information about Tristyn. Their father, Jerry Creel, said Absher told his daughters that the drug dealer was 22 years old and was known as Carlo, Karlo. The drug dealer, nobody can quite figure out if it's spelled Carlo or Karlo, was was spelled, they couldn't figure out the spelling. Witnesses provided a possible address for him, and when investigators tracked him down, he was eliminated as a suspect because he was last seen in St. Johns County on May 1st, documents said. So therefore, he was not around to be responsible for Tristyn Bailey's death. Quote, information later obtained failed to reveal any further probative connection to Carlo, and he was excluded from the investigation, end quote. No other detectives turned up information, according to documents, that say, quote, that Tristyn may have been involved in an illegal activity, and she was afraid she would be caught and wanted to run away, end quote. However, investigators' leads appear to have been borne zero fruit. After Fucci was arrested, he was put into an interview room, and this is where it gets interesting, guys. And he was allowed to see his parents, with audio and video recording them. Fucci's parents told him to remain silent until his attorney arrived, and they told him that the room was being recorded, which it was. Fucci asked, quote, is she good? When his parents said Bailey had been found. No, she's dead. That's why this is very important. It's all on you right now, said Fucci's mother. Fucci asked, quote, how is it my problem? End quote. Nice, guys, right? What a stellar guy he is. His parents told him because he was the last person seen with Bailey. Fucci said he understood the situation was serious. Jason Fucci, Aiden's father, asked him if he had any cuts or scrapes. Aiden responded with, quote, no, sir. Fucci then began telling his parents that Bailey probably got picked up by her drug dealer and that she was not going home. He said she was going to find someone to stay with. That is Fucci's fourth story, you guys. Fucci insisted, according to documents, that after pushing Tristyn, he continued walking. Jason Fucci asked his son, quote, did you kiss or do anything with them, end quote, about the people he had been hanging out with. Fucci stated he kissed Bailey, but, quote, denied doing anything further, end quote, according to the police report, who paraphrased that conversation. Jason Fucci then goes on to ask, quote, so your DNA is going to be on her, end quote. Aiden did not respond to that question. He also did not respond when his father told him people on social media were saying he was the killer. Fucci then tells his father that Tristyn tried to grab him, that she yelled at his name, that he pushed her, and that he told her to F off. And then he walked away, which is story number 5. Next, a detective comes into the interview room, and he asks for a consensual fingernail scraping. Both parents said they would wait for an attorney to arrive. When the detective left the room, both parents told Aiden that police would be looking underneath his fingernails and examining his body for marks. Jason Fucci asked his son, quote, there will be nothing on those clothes, right? End quote. Aiden responded with, quote, no, sir. Aiden said he was wearing blue jeans. His mother asked if anything was going to be on them. Aiden Fucci responded, quote, I don't think so. Why? And Crystal Smith whispered to her son, blood. Crystal Smith asked, quote, when we looked on the camera, you were wearing khakis, right? End quote. Aiden responded with, yes. Crystal says, the police are not buying it. The police report says, quote, this appeared to be Crystal attempting to convince Aiden he was wearing khaki pants instead of the blue jeans, contrary to his previous statement. Smith is now charged with washing Aiden's jeans in an attempt to destroy evidence. According to the police report, which recounts the conversation between Aiden and his parents, Crystal Smith suggested that her son's story simply doesn't make sense. She said, quote, didn't see why Aiden kissed Tristyn, then she grabbed Aiden, and then Aiden pushed her. The report continues, quote, Jason and Crystal both advised Aiden to find his story and stick to it, end quote. His parents then proceeded to tell their son how an autopsy would be conducted and what it might discover. Fucci goes on to say that it took him a long time to get home because, quote, he walked around by himself slowly looking at the stars, end quote. I think we're up to story number 6 now, you guys. All three left the interview room at about 9:08 p.m. to meet with Anwar Snowbar, their attorney. They returned to the interview room at 10:26 p.m. They were seen sniffling and appeared to have been crying. Smith reminded Aiden that the room was recorded and that he should not say anything. Detectives then spoke to them about where Aiden would spend the night and that he was not yet under arrest. Fucci said, quote, I know, I'm staying here, end quote. Jason and Aiden then began typing messages to one another on a phone and passing it back and forth. The police report goes on to say, quote, this appeared to be a means of communication to subvert investigative efforts. Like they think that the police are not going to confiscate their phones and see what they were saying. They're in denial right there. I'm just saying that. Their conversation then turned to Aiden's drug use. Aiden told his mother that he was smoking CBD, not THC, because the former doesn't get him high while the latter does, which is another contradictory statement because earlier he said he was dizzy because he was smoking marijuana, and I'm pretty sure he's meaning because of the THC. Crystal Smith goes on to say, quote, I'm just trying to think if you did something stupid. Maybe something made you do it, so that would justify it, end quote. And in Florida, you can't use the defense that because you were under the influence voluntarily and you committed a crime, you can't use that in a court of law in Florida. Smith nor the elder Fucci agreed to speak to the police that day. Authorities found that Tristyn's cell phone last pinged off the network from a wooded area south of Loop Nursery on Racetrack Road. Her body was eventually found in a wooden area east of a cul-de-sac on Saddlestone Drive, near a retention pond on a property owned by the Durbin Creek Nursery on Racetrack Road. A pink vape device, Tristyn's cell phone, and a $20 bill were in the immediate vicinity. A Powerade bottle was also nearby. A runner said he found Tristyn's body while searching the area after returning home from a run. Documents say that Aiden Fucci's wet Nike shoes tested positive for the presumptive presence of blood, as did his white t-shirt. Authorities took various knives were taken into evidence, including a, quote, Buck brand folding hunting knife found in a pond 140 feet away from Bailey's body. The knife was described as, quote, bent and fractured. And we know from what the DA has told us that the tip was broken off of that knife and it was found in the scalp of Tristyn's head, which is sick. I think that might, in my opinion, been the only thing that stopped him from stabbing her anymore. 114 times is overkill. The knife was then taken into as evidence. According to a friend of Tristyn's, Tristyn wanted to run away because she was out with a group of friends who started to write graffiti on a sign. The friends put Bailey's name on the sign, and she crossed it out at the advice of another friend. So remember, Aiden had said before that, you know, she might have been looking for somewhere to stay because she wanted to run away, like she was afraid of getting in trouble. That was the incident where she was afraid of getting in trouble because one of her friends wrote her name. I'm assuming it's on a street sign, graffiti on a street sign, and she was scared. You know, she didn't want to get in trouble. She didn't want to get in trouble with authorities or her parents. And so probably inside the guilt was eating her up and made her feel like, my family's never going to understand, which is not true. Your parents do, we were kids once too, and they love you no matter what. And I just feel bad that she was feeling that way because her family seems so loving and caring. And, I'm sure they would have told her, what you did wasn't right, but, we have to learn from what we do wrong and not repeat those mistakes. I really think they would have been very understanding. And I just know how if you do something wrong, you feel guilty and it eats you up inside. So that's what the friend told investigators in that situation. The police report said, quote, Tristyn tried to scribble her name out of the sign and was afraid she was going to get caught, end quote. That friend also called, now this is very interesting, Aiden Fucci, quote, the textbook definition of what you would call a numb kid. So he shows no emotions whatsoever, is what this friend seems to be saying. He has no feelings towards anyone, no feelings towards himself. She goes on to say Fucci's eyes always appeared, quote, glossy, describing them as having no meaning to them. I guess, like dead in the eyes. And every time I looked at Christopher Watts, that's what I would see. His eyes looked completely dead inside, like void of emotion. So I'm wondering that the witnesses that came forward, they're seeing that as well. Because we do know from authorities that and witnesses that came forward that Aiden told many people that he was going to stab somebody in the woods and murder them. He talked about that for a while on hand, and probably Tristyn was just at the wrong place at the wrong time. We haven't found out if, he did try to kiss her and she pushed off his advances. My mind has been going there, that he didn't like that she didn't want to be with him. But you have to remember, she was very studious, and her main goal was keeping school and doing her cheerleading, and of course being with her family. And she's 13 years old, you guys, Maybe she just wasn't ready to get involved in a relationship. Not everybody is, So, he might have wanted something else with her that she wasn't willing to give. This friend told Tristyn, the same friend that called Fucci the type of person you would see as a murderer. That's what this friend said. So somebody is seeing this kid as a murderer, and we probably know that because of the statements he made to witnesses ahead of time about how he was going to commit a murder in the woods by stabbing somebody. He just doesn't care. So this friend told Tristyn not to hang out with Aiden, especially that, at all, but especially that night that they were meeting up with a group of friends, because she said, quote, she had a bad feeling about it. Now, today, as of this recording, it's July 16th, 2021, Aiden Fucci's attorneys have entered court documents waiving his right to a speedy trial. And his attorneys also asked for a continuance, effectively canceling their scheduled court date on July 28th, 2021. So we don't know when he's going to be back in court, you guys. And they have been going back and forth of when his mother's case should go, if it's before or after, because, she was trying to destroy evidence in this case. And so that's where we are, you guys. I will come make another video about information Aiden's girlfriend, his ex-girlfriend, has made statements about. Very, very disturbing, you guys. To me, in my opinion, it appears he has some type of mental illness, which I hope they're going to be treating in the facility right now in the juvenile detention center. And, I know his father has a rap sheet, and now his mother is in trouble for destroying state's evidence. So there you go, you guys. I hope all of you are well, enjoying your summer, and have a happy weekend. I will see you soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.